camera and go ahead with the presentation. And I won't be able to see the chat. So if you have any questions, I guess, I don't know, feel free to speak up or maybe can address them at the end of the talk. Just brief outline about this lecture. We'll talk about the process of the application, challenges and opportunities, sponsorship opportunities, and pretty much the whole experience of residency in Canada, and eventually briefly talking about my own experience. So the application process for the residency in Canada basically starts with the SACB, الملحقية الثقافية السعودية في Canada, Saudi Cultural Bureau. I would advise anyone who's thinking of applying to Canada, the first step is basically to communicate and send an email to SACB. Ask them about the available programs, the deadlines, and the requirements. The reason is because تقريبا الديدلاين يتغير ممكن من سنة لسنة. The available programs are تتغير من سنة لسنة, as well as the requirement might be variable from year to year. So the first and most important step is basically go into their website, send an email, inquire about this information. Once you get their information, basically fulfill the requirement, they will send you a link to basically upload the documents and send your application through medical application system. It is a web portal specific for SACB. And then once you send your application للملحقية, they will forward your application to the available programs. You will receive an interviews. مواعيد الانترفيوز مختلفة باختلاف البروجرام. It's anywhere between, I think, August to maybe January, February. It is not a match system in Canada for us, اللي هم ال IFTs, ال International Funded Trainees, اللي هم basically الخليجيين. عشان كذا مواعيد الانترفيوز مختلفة from year to year. Once you finish the interviews, eventually you will get the offer letter, توفيق الله, and the process ends there, basically. So I went to the website and I took this screenshot. هذا من موقع الملحقية. You can see, if you go to the website, you'll go to contact us, academic affairs and medical and health sciences programs departments. There's this long list of people who are responsible about and responsible for medical grads in Canada, and they are the people responsible for helping the applicants who wish to continue their residency or fellowships to Canada. So go into this web page and email any of those people, and they will help you basically with the process. Before going into the requirements, usually the process, as far as I remember, the deadline is in May of every year. So try to plan ahead of time. And so almost 1 year ahead of time would be great. So you can have all your paperwork ready by then. The requirements, basically the medical diploma, obviously, the licensing exam currently is the Mcc Qe Part 1. Sponsorship letters or sponsorship from your government. And language exam is a requirement for certain universities. I think this is, again, could be variable from year to year, but as far as I remember, Vancouver and Alberta require language exams, and probably Queens. I think the rest of the universities in Canada, they don't require any language exam. But again, all this information will be provided to you by SACB, الملحقية السعودية الثقافية في Canada. question how to increase my chances. Your CV, حاط بين قوسين CAN-MEDS framework, I'll talk about it in the next slide. Your personal statement, recommendation letters, and the electives. I'll skip CV for now, and we'll talk about personal statement. When you write a personal statement, make sure it is well written. Make sure that you don't copy personal statements available online, because people can easily identify and recognize that. So spend some time and effort in personal statement, and that should help you down the road. Recommendation letters, having strong recommendation letters, always helpful. Electives can help, but it is not like a necessary requirement. I know a lot of people who got accepted in residency programs in Canada without doing an elective in Canada, but if you happen to have one, that's that might be a bonus on your side. CV, basically CV is مختصر your journey في الكلية. And the reason why I did put CAN-MEDS roles, CAN-MED roles, it's a framework that identify and describes the abilities physicians require to effectively meet the healthcare needs of the people they serve. So basically the residency programs here, aim and objective is to develop these CAN-MED roles and abilities in the resident to eventually becomes a medical expert. So I advise every single one of you and those who are planning to continue their training in Canada, look it up and read about it. And if you think about it, for example, so these are the roles that they want the resident eventually is capable for. So they want someone who's a leader. So if someone who has assumed leadership roles during the medical school, which will reflect on his CV, that's an excellent and good thing to have. They want someone who's a scholar, who has done a lot of research. Well, it's not necessarily that you publish a lot, but having your publications and your CV is also a good thing. Being a health advocate, المشاركة في الحملات can be helpful. So basically, that's the message that I'm trying to say here, is if you go in and read about these CAN-MED roles, and if you're still early in your medical school, try to keep these roles in your mind and work on developing these aspects so you can build a great CV eventually. Sponsorship opportunities. Saudiya, a lot of sponsors. I know it's getting more difficult these years. وكل سنة صايرة أصعب من السنة اللي قبلها. The reason is I think في كثير مبتعثين already في great programs locally now, and a lot of centers صايرين they would rather send fellows rather than residents, but opportunities are still there. So again, this is a screenshot من موقع الملحقية. These are the available sponsors for Saudiya, and this is not an exclusive list. I think the list is longer than that. So basically, universities, المدن الطبية, وزارة التعليم, وزارة الصحة, العسكرية. That's pretty much I think the main sponsors. All these sponsors are available pretty much in the big cities of Saudiya and even in the peripheries now. So my advice to you, how to get a sponsor. Check the website of the scholarship, the website scholarship page of these hospitals or universities. Unfortunately, I remember 5 years ago, the websites were never updated. So give them a call if you don't find any information. If they never answer or they don't give you good information, visit them physically. Do not wait for their website to be updated. Keep asking people around you and visit the scholarship offices on every single hospital or university in your city or nearby cities and ask them about the sponsorship opportunities. So there was certain questions was sent to me that I need to address. There was a question: is it extremely hard to find a sponsor? I think so I'm not quite sure صراحة, بس I think إنه كل سنة صارت تصير أصعب من اللي قبلها, but opportunities are still there and still available. كل سنة لسه في مبتعثين كثير يجون, but sounds like the requirements are getting more difficult from these sponsorships. That's again, like, knock every single door and keep knocking all the doors basically to try to find a sponsor and never give up. There was a question: was there any form of favoritism when getting a sponsor or not? To be frankly honest, I don't know any person who got a sponsorship this way. I wouldn't be surprised if there were few people like this, but I would say networking helps, because when you get a sponsorship, that means that you're gonna go back and work in that place, whether that's a hospital or university, and people would want to work with someone whom they know and have worked with before. So networking helps a lot. So and hence the communication skills is very important. And here's the thing: keep talking to people around you, ask them about opportunities, ask the program directors. It is not wrong at all to ask local program director about the opportunities of going abroad, because they have been through this and it shouldn't be an issue. Residency in Canada. Things to consider when you are applying in Canada. The good thing about residencies in Canada, I think, with things to consider, is basically the programs across the country are well structured and pretty much the same level. There are a bit of minor differences, but pretty much all programs are at the same level. All of them are strong programs. They all have been overseen by Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons, which has been established 1930, I think. So these are basically the main advantages of the Residency of Canada. Also, doing the residency in North America generally, you don't have to worry about التصنيف مع الهيئة and the future, because it has always been in group A أو فئة ألف من الدول اللي يصنفون directly as a consultant, as opposed to other countries فيها multiple programs وكل فترة وفترة الهيئة طالعة بأنظمة جديدة موضوع التصنيف فيها. The other good thing about residencies Canada, social diversity in Canada is pretty impressive. في a lot of nationalities, so you won't feel as stranger as you might feel elsewhere. Cons, it's very far, obviously, as compared to Europe. If someone wanted to do the residency in Europe, it's nicer to be closer to home. أحد برضو المساوئ as opposed to doing your residency locally in Saudi, you will be away from family, from friends, you'll miss a lot of important occasions, you'll miss a lot of milestones and important people around you. Financially as well in Canada is not as rewarding as it is in Saudi. So I guess these are the main cons. والجو طبعا, it's extremely cold here. When to start preparing if you want to apply for residency in Canada? To be honest, I would say like as early as possible. If you are still in medical school in the early years, work on that from early on. Work on developing your CVs. If you try to get an opportunity to do your elective abroad, that would help. If you are in the last year of medical school, try to basically know the requirements and work on preparing them from early on, so you can have all your paperwork done by early internship year, and then you can be ready to apply right away. If you just started your internship, I would say the first step that you should do is plan to do the exam as early as possible, so you can have it ready, because you cannot apply. Well, basically, technically you can apply before you have the exam done, but you can't start your residency in Canada without having an exam, and your opportunities will be much less if you apply without an exam. And technically, SACB won't process your application without an exam, except for a few exceptions. Last point, program quality and future prospects. As I said earlier, pretty much most of the programs are very strong across the country, wherever you go. Future prospects, like I guess being North American board certified is a great thing to have, because it is recognized in across many countries. But eventually for Saudi, is there an advantage of having North American board compared to Saudi board? I don't think so. Both are great boards, and they are equally the same. I get this question a lot. Is there any differences in opportunities down the road and on career development between having North American board or Saudi board? I don't know, and I doubt there is a difference, because we can see a lot of people who have done their local programs are doing really great, and eventually it's about the person itself rather than their country of training. Last point is how's my personal experience in general. So I've been here for like 4 years and بخش في السنة الخامسة in a few months. It's been a great experience so far. I do not regret my decision coming here at all. If I go back in time, I would definitely make the same decision. And it's been great years, difficult years for sure, but definitely worth it. And again, I would do it again. There was a question, how did you know which residency program was meant for you? I'm not quite sure this question means like which residency program as a specialty radiology or Toronto. But in any case, I will address both issues. For radiology, I did a few electives in medical school, and I did those electives in the Saudiya or Bara Saudiya in different hospitals. I liked the different aspects of the specialties, and I did the procedure aspect, the diagnostic aspect of it, the vast variability in fellowship opportunities, and for that reason, I decided to pursue radiology. How did I know that residency in Canada is best for me? From early on, honestly, I was working on preparing my application to apply for both the States and Canada. I know a lot of people who has done their residencies in radiology in Canada, and for that reason, I applied for both, but I got my acceptance in Canada before the States, and that's basically the main reason why I continued my training in Canada. I only had 2 opportunities in Canada. Basically, it was between Toronto and Montreal, and the decision basically to make that the Toronto residency program is best for me was basically based on recommendation of people ahead of me. That was basically the main reason, صراحة. How long is my residency program? It is 5 years program. Pretty much most of the programs in Canada here are 5 years. Most of the surgical programs are 5 years. Maybe 1 or 2 surgical programs are 6 years. Radiology is 5 years. Medicine is 3 years, and 3 to 4 years, and then you'll do your fellowships. Family medicine is 2 to 3 years, and then also they do fellowships as well. Emergency medicine is 5 years as well. What is one thing you wish you knew before choosing my residency in Canada? صراحة nothing. Nothing comes to mind, but if I would say something someone might think of is probably how much you are willing to basically be away from your family and friends. So that's pretty much it, because sometimes it can be difficult being away. To me, it wasn't an issue. I was coping very well, but that's the main thing, maybe. What helped you with your preparation? I would say having study buddy or study group of people who you share the same plan, same goal, and same objective. That would definitely help. I remember ممكن كنا 3 أو 4 having the same plan, same objective, that we want to continue our training abroad. And so pretty much from early on, we were planning together, and that helps us also in finishing our exams from early on. And that also works pretty well for study tips. The main tip I would say is find a study buddy or study group, and plan early, stick to your plan, and you will reach to whatever you decided on eventually. So I guess that was pretty much it. I was running fast to probably leave an opportunity for questions at the end of this talk. So I'm happy to hear your questions if you have any.
The lecture is perfect. I'm going to read you the questions the students have sent. Okay, so the first question, what could be the least score for Mcc Qe that secure a position?
Passing score. I don't know what's the passing score now, but if you pass the exam, you can secure a position. And okay. Speaking of scores, from my personal experience, knowing how the radiology program choose their applicants, and I know other programs as well here in Canada, the licensing exam score is not the most important thing. So they definitely have accepted people who have less scores than others. So I guess as long as you pass the exam, well, aim for a good score, but as long as you pass the exam, you still have an opportunity, regardless of the score is.
Okay, great. Second question, are we only obligated to take Mcc Qe Part 1, or is Part 2 also important?
To apply for the residency, you only need Part 1.
Okay. The third question, when did you start your application process?
So I had pretty much all the requirements ready at the beginning of the internship. So I remember, I think الانترنشيب تبدأ في July. I think by November I had my exam results, and by then I had pretty much my application ready. I think I got my sponsorship letter by February or March, and then I applied by then, and I applied maybe end of April. So I started to prepare everything at the beginning of the internship.
When did you start studying for the exam?
So when I applied, I had the MCC, not the Mcc Qe. That exam was phased out; it's not available anymore. And I started preparing for the MCC. I think, like by the beginning of the internship, I think July or August. So maybe I spent like 3 months, 4 months for the exam to study.
Okay. The fourth question, is it true that no application would be looked into if said international graduate isn't applying to a Canadian citizenship?
Malish, could you repeat the question? And I don't think I understand it very well.
Okay, Rima, if you can rephrase it so we can, so the doctor can understand your question clearly. But she said, is it true that no application would be looked into if said international graduate isn't applying to a Canadian citizenship?
Okay. So I know that once you move into Canada and become mubta'ath, basically, you are not allowed to apply for Canadian citizenship. But before then, I'm not quite sure. I don't know. I know I've met some people who are Canadian citizens, like dual citizens, Canadian and Saudi citizens, who received basically a scholarship, and their application were processed. So the bottom line, I don't know, but the thing that I know about is basically once you come here to Canada, الملحقية ما راح تفتح لك ملف كمبتعث وحتوقعك على تعهد انك you don't apply for Canadian citizenship.
Oh, okay. So Rima replied, and she said that she checked the Canadian sites, and they said they won't allow any people on scholarships unless they basically apply to Canadian citizenship.
Oh, okay. I think fine. So there is 2 tracks in Canada for residency. There is the CARMS, Canadian Residency Matching System, and you cannot apply for this pathway unless you are Canadian citizen or you are permanent resident of Canada. This is one track. Another track is basically the track of the international funded trainees, the applicants who are funded by their own governments, اللي هم basically track هذا اللي هو دول الخليج، السعودية وباقي دول الخليج. So كل الtalk هذا basically was about the international funded trainee track. If you are a Canadian citizen or you hold the permanent residency of Canada and you want to apply through CARMS, it's a different pathway. You can, but that's a different track. ما له علاقة في الملحقية. بس إنه نفس requirement basically. I think there is another exam required for that track, اللي هو NAC exam. بس.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Doctor. Okay, so Hanan is asking, what's the most important aspect of getting accepted? Is it the GPA, the exam, or the CV, or which one exactly?
I don't think there is a single one, to be honest. It's a whole package. Everything is important. GPA, not as much, to be frankly honest, because they realize, different universities have different way of basically assessing the medical students. So GPA of certain number at certain university might not be the same as the other university. So from my own experience of talking to people here, GPA is not as important. It is one factor among different other factors. So basically, everything is important, and work on everything, and don't disregard one over the other.
Okay. Which of the sponsoring agencies are most likely to offer a sponsorship?
Well, I don't know. It used to be universities. It used to be like maybe 5 years ago. Now, I guess, and I know جامعة الملك سعود في الرياض الحين, they don't offer sponsorship as they used to be. But I think universities في الperipheries, جامعة الملك عبد العزيز في جدة, I think they still offer a lot of sponsorships. But overall, generally, universities have always been the most likely one to offer sponsorship, and I think they still are, generally speaking.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Someone is asking, could you please touch upon letter of admission purposes only by Ministry of Education?
I'm not aware of that. ما أعرف صراحة.
Okay. How many opportunities do you get if you didn't get accepted the first time?
I don't think there is a limit. I know people applied multiple times until they get accepted eventually. So I don't think there is a limit, basically.
Okay. What specialties can Saudis apply to?
All specialties. All specialties. But the thing is, not all specialties in all universities are available. But generally speaking, in Canada, all specialties are available. But it depends on the university.
Okay. Does taking a step make a difference?
No. USMLE tips, I guess, right? No,
yeah.
doesn't make. No.
Okay. Do you believe doing a residency abroad may have a negative effect on future connections and work opportunities locally?
Maybe. I don't know. I did not complete my residency yet, صراحة, but probably. And والعكس صحيح, ممكن برضو to have a positive effect, because for some reason, some places admire those people who comes from abroad. Other places, they don't. So
yeah, it depends.
It depends exactly.
Okay. How did you apply for elective outside Saudi?
So personally, I did one elective in the States and one here in Canada. In the States, I was basically like communicating directly with the universities. So I was just looking up online, and I send an email. I send emails to the universities directly. Canada كان فيه website for medical students to apply for electives. ما يحضرني الآن صراحة. But I'm pretty sure if you can look it up online, like medical students elective Canada, something along this line, and there is like a web portal. The other thing that you can also do in Canada is basically to email universities directly, and then they can redirect you for the right track.
Okay. Muhammad is asking, can you talk about clerkships or observerships in Canada and their later on effect in the application process and approval?
I think it depends على الprogram that you tend to apply to, but overall, doing an elective in a certain university and having people knowing you there and showing them in your application when you get an interview that you have been there and you know the system, logically it should be an advantage. Is it necessary? No. Again, I know people who got accepted here without doing an elective in Canada أو حتى in North America أو حتى برا السعودية. يعني they just did electives في السعودية وهاد their opportunities here وتوفقوا. But ما أدري, to me logically it might help, it should help, unless they don't, you go do an elective and they don't like you and that it's ممكن تجي عليك ضدك. It's like kind of like a double-edged sword basically.
Okay. Can you, doctor, please talk about references and how you obtained them and whether or not the references have to be from Canadian graduate physicians?
They don't have to be from Canadian graduate physician. Ideally, the references are يعني يكونون أفضل لو جت من ناس يعرفهم البروجرام اللي they're applying to. So basically they would trust this person, so they would trust his recommendation. But again, yeah, it's not a must. And also another thing is how to obtain references. Just be frank with the consultant. From early on, you're working with them. You tell him or you tell her that you're planning to apply for this program and you're hoping to get a reference letter from her to support your application. And most people are really supportive and they're understandable.
Okay. Can you talk about diagnostic radiology in general? Lifestyle, income, pros and cons of radiology, and does it require a lot of reading? I'm not sure what does it mean, the last part.
Yeah, well, it does require a lot of reading, a lot of reading, obviously. Lifestyle, it is considered like one of the lifestyle specialties, although it is kind of like heading in the opposite direction now. Income, it's really variable, depends on the country. In the States and Canada, it's one of the top paid specialties. Saudi, I don't know, I don't think تفرق كثير because it's salary-based practice. For the private, I have no idea, I'm not there yet. Pros and cons, yeah, I mean, it depends on what you like. Prawns of radiology, I see it's the breadth of knowledge and opportunities and flexibilities that radiology offers in terms of jobs. If you want to be purely diagnostician, if you want to be purely interventionist, if you want to have a mix of both, this specialty provides that. If you want to really be involved in patient care, you still have this option in radiology. If you want to just basically do diagnostic work, it does offer that. Cons, I would say, and most people say, is basically it is not as recognized from society as other specialties. And this thing depends on your personality. If you really care about what people say, you may not like this aspect about it. But if you're one of those who don't really care whether people recognize your work or not, I guess it is the best specialty. I mean, I'm biased, of course, but I definitely recommend it.
Of course. Okay, so there are two questions about the preparation of the exam, the Mcc Qe exam. And is French language a requirement in certain programs?
So best way to prepare for the Mcc Qe, I think that يعني الحديث يطول في هذا. I have a recorded lecture about Mcc Qe. It's uploaded on YouTube, my future pathways. But basically, in a nutshell, Q Banks, UWard, and Canadian Q Bank, and one of the review books. The one I used was Master the Boards, but there are a lot of options in there. هل French language is a requirement in certain programs? So Canada فيها مقاطعة فرنسية كيوبيك والباقي is in English speaking provinces. In Quebec في English speaking programs وفي French speaking programs. اللي يحضرني is University of Montreal, and there's another university ناسي اسمها صراحة. هذولي French speaking programs, and I think on these programs French language is a requirement. Different programs like McGill, it's in Montreal, but it's an English speaking program, so you don't need a French language in that program basically.
Okay, there are also two questions about the fellowship. If you happen to know the requirements and anything about fellowship programs.
صراحة ما أعرف كثير عن fellowship. I just applied for the fellowship program, but generally speaking, I met some people who came here for fellowship. Most of the programs for fellowship, they don't even require a licensing exam. But the other process is pretty much the same through SACB. And I would advise doing the same. Email them, ask them about the requirements, deadlines, available programs. But it should be easier than residency because the opportunities أكثر, the programs أكثر. Many of the programs, they don't even require the exam, which is a great thing.
Okay. There are also two questions about the elective. If the sponsor is needed to get an elective abroad, and if there is any financial support from university or hospital for the international electives.
You don't need a sponsor for an elective. It's not a requirement. هل في financial support from universities? I remember at the time, 6 years ago, I think, or 5 years ago, جامعة الملك سعود, they used to support students to go abroad for an elective financially. الحين ما أعرف صراحة كيف الوضع. I doubt it now, but I don't know.
Okay. if my sponsor was a university, when I get back, will I work as a doctor or as a lecturer? And is there any difference in salaries?
You will work both. Should be a physician and assistant professor teaching students. Salaries, I think, so there are differences. ما أعرف صراحة تفاصيلهم بس يعني as if you are in a university you are على سلم الأكاديميين يفرق عن سلم رواتب الناس اللي على الخدمة المدنية، يفرق على سلم ناس الرواتب اللي في التشغيل الذاتي. هذا في البيزك سالاريز، بس الفول باكجز I don't know صراحة. بس it's supposedly إنه الرواتب موحدة بين الأطباء الآن في المملكة whether you're in أكاديميا أو tertiary medical cities أو العسكرية. it's different story. ما أعرف صراحة. I hope I answered the question.
Okay, thank you, doctor. From which elective, US or Canada, did you benefit the most from in terms of skills and hands-on opportunities?
Canada. US, it was more or less an observership rather than an elective, but probably because it was radiology. بس برضو في Canada I did it as a radiology, but it was more hands-on in Canada. So استفدت my own personal experience. استفدت من elective في Canada أكثر من أمريكا.
Okay, someone is asking, is the military medical sponsorship is easier than others like universities and medical cities?
I don't know صراحة.
Okay. When do you recommend to take the elective in Canada?
During the internship. Beginning or end of the internship. Depends on your comfort level. It's better to go there when you have developed good skills. So at the end of the internship would theoretically be better unless you feel that you're comfortable from early on. But any time should be good.
Okay, I think this is the last question. Is the interview conducted in Canada or KSA?
So since COVID, all the interviews have been happening virtually. Before COVID time, interviews used to be physically in Canada.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr.